Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really wild duality that is totally defining New York City right now in 2026. We're looking at this intense, almost high-altitude economic friction crashing right into a completely vibrant, incredibly accessible cultural reality on the ground. I mean, how do you actually survive a city that seems to demand a billionaire's budget, but somehow, surprisingly, offers up its absolute best experiences for free? Well, we dug through the latest economic data and tapped into some local secrets to figure it out.
All right, here's our game plan. First up, we'll look at the city of contradictions. Second, we're exploring the five-borough value. Third, we are defending Staten Island. And finally, we'll show you how to score million-dollar views, completely free. Okay, part one, a city of contradictions. Let's look at the actual economic realities. To really wrap our heads around this paradox, we have to look at the Comptroller's 2026 report. Because on one hand, you've got these unbelievable record market highs. The Dow just crossed above 50,000 for the very first time, right in a city that literally boasts more billionaires than anywhere else on Earth. But man, the reality on the ground, it is stark. Nearly 90,000 New Yorkers slept in shelters last night. The city is staring down a multi-billion-dollar budget gap. And honestly, job growth is practically stagnant outside of the healthcare sector. When you add in the fact that nearly 1 in 4 New Yorkers, we're talking 2 million people, are living in poverty, you just can't ignore this massive disconnect.
And look, the inflation villain is absolutely squeezing people right now. While the national inflation rate is sitting at about 2.7%, the New York metro area is running hotter at 3.4%. But you have to notice where that money is actually going. Local energy costs, specifically electricity, are up a staggering 6.1%. Compare that to just 2.3% nationally. Shelter costs, up 4.2%. So just the absolute fundamental costs of keeping the lights on and keeping a roof over your head are running significantly higher here than the rest of the country. So, looking down from those shiny high-rises, the macro data paints a pretty tough, incredibly expensive picture. But how do everyday people actually survive this landscape at the street level without totally breaking the bank? Well, it's all about knowing exactly where to look. Which brings us to part two, the five-borough value, surviving NYC on a budget. Let's pivot away from that gloomy economic data for a second and hit the streets, because a rich world-class itinerary doesn't actually require a trust fund. Just imagine a classic 5-day blitz. Day 1, you're taking in the monumental Temple of Dender at the Met, then walking the High Line down in Manhattan. Day 2, you head up to the Bronx to explore the 265-acre zoo, followed by some authentic Neapolitan pizza on Arthur Avenue. Day 3 is all about the historic roller coasters out at Coney Island in Brooklyn. Day 4, you're in Queens, getting incredibly diverse, totally authentic steamed buns and dumplings at the New World Mall food court. And then on day 5, you hop the free ferry over to Staten Island to explore the beautiful Snug Harbor. The truth is, New York has always had this surprisingly generous side that its tough reputation doesn't exactly advertise. To beat the economic squeeze, you really just need an open mind, a comfortable pair of walking shoes, and a Metro card.
All right, part 3, defending Staten Island. We're doing some borough myth-busting.
Is there literally any reason to ever go to Staten Island? Honestly, that is a direct quote from a very heated local Reddit thread. People in the other boroughs love to joke that Staten Island feels further away than New Jersey. But we are about to do some major myth-busting here. Because when you ask the actual locals and frequent visitors, they sing a totally different tune. They're saying things like, Staten Island has excellent parks, there's also Sri Lankan food, Snug Harbor is worth a visit. It's not just endless suburban strip malls, guys. Residents are quick to point out the serene Chinese Scholars Garden at Snug Harbor, which is completely unique on the East Coast. And then there are these incredible Sri Lankan spots like La Cranawa, famous for those massive weekend buffets just bursting from traditional clay pots. And honestly, you cannot talk about Staten Island without mentioning Enoteca Maria, widely known as Nana's Kitchen. This is literally a restaurant where a rotating crew of real grandmas take over the kitchen to cook authentic, home-style food from their own cultures. It is just amazing. It perfectly captures that deeply authentic, totally unpretentious, and affordable dining culture that is thriving on the island right now. This is exactly the kind of high-value, soulful experience you are simply not going to find in a crowded midtown tourist trap. So if you want the Staten Island cheat code, here it is. You've got the Staten Island Ferry, literally the best free ride in the city with unbeatable views of the Statue of Liberty. You've got minor league baseball games where the Manhattan skyline is just sitting right there in the background. You've got historic pizza at Danino's. They've been serving up their famous garbage pies since 1937. plus Enoteca Maria and Snug Harbor. It absolutely proves that the best things in the city often cost the least. Moving right along to part 4, $1 million views free. Let's talk skyline panoramas. So if you want to score those insane panoramic skyline views without dropping a single dime at the door, listen up. Our sources put together a roster of 10 spectacular rooftop spots that are stubbornly holding on to their no-cover policy in 2026. They are completely pushing back against the massive financial pressures we talked about at the top of the explainer. We're talking about places like 235th in Manhattan, the 64-story high overstory down in the financial district, and gems like Harriet's and El Nico over in Brooklyn. 25,000. That is literally how many positive reviews 235th has racked up. It pretty much cements this spot as the absolute gold standard for the free entry rooftop experience. I mean, it boasts the largest rooftop garden in New York. And the Empire State Building, it doesn't just sit politely in the background. It entirely fills your field of vision. It's the iconic Manhattan experience, and on most nights, you can literally just walk right in. But here's the thing. You kind of have to choose your own adventure here. Do you want to be in the skyline or looking at the skyline? Manhattan rooftops like Monarch and Magic Hour give you that close-up, high-energy midtown buzz. But if you cross the East River into Brooklyn to spots like Westlight or Bar Blondeau, you earn these sweeping, totally unobstructed panoramic views. At Harriet's in Dumbo, you actually get a 180-degree trifecta. You get the Brooklyn Bridge, the Manhattan skyline, and the Statue of Liberty, all in one single frame. No cover charge required. Okay, so what's the actual playbook here? How do you pull this off? First, obviously, go on a clear evening. Bring your patience, because walk-ins are totally welcome, but lines definitely happen. If you want to dodge sudden cover charges, steer clear of late Saturday nights, and always read the fine print. Places like Overstory, for instance, won't charge you a door fee to ride up to the 64th floor, but they do have a per-person minimum spend on their specialty cocktails once you're up there. But if you navigate these venues like a local, you get that millionaire experience for the price of a drink.
Which brings us to our conclusion, the value of the city. So we've looked at the high-altitude economic friction from the top down, and we've seen the ground-level generosity looking up. In a city grappling with a $50,000 Dow, a multi-billion-dollar budget gap, and inflation that just won't quit, we have to ask, does true value come from what you spend or what you discover? This whole 2026 NYC paradox shows us that the city's greatest views, its richest cultures, and its most authentic meals are often hiding right in plain sight. They are completely accessible to anyone willing to put in a little legwork. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep exploring.